All right, guys. This is Coach JT from Jill Masters Elite, and I'm excited to have a special guest here today, Dominic Clegg, and he runs a company called A1pha Pack, and he is an incredible young expert we've got in the community. And after meeting Dominic, I knew immediately that I wanted to have him here for this interview. And Dominic, why don't you take it away? Tell us who you are, what you do.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Appreciate it, JT. So I'm Dom Clegg, born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, still in Columbus, moved around a little bit, but grew up playing all kinds of sports. So you think of it, I probably played it. I played even ultimate Frisbee in high school at one point. So been all over the place with sports, but then got into football towards the tail end of grade school and middle school. Ended up taking me into high school, and then college. I played at Ohio Dominican University, where I was a linebacker and a safety, and ended up winning a conference championship in the GLIAC when Ohio Dominican was there. We're a Division II school when I was there. And so from there, I got into coaching, got into college football coaching, coached for 6 years at various places, a few of them being Kent State, Arkansas State, Wheeling University, Western Colorado, and then Ohio Dominican was where I got my start doing that. And then I left the coaching world and then decided that I think performance coaching was for me. So I do mental performance coaching. My business is A1pha Pack. I want to create a bunch of alphas. And for me, an alpha is someone that's constantly improving and then performs when called upon. And as you can see in the name, it's A1pha. So it's about being the alpha, being the one that can make a difference for themselves and for their family and friends.
Awesome. And I noticed that you called yourself Dom, and I'm calling you Dominic. So is it Dom you prefer?
It's whichever one, to be honest. Usually my mom calls me Dominic. Sometimes my wife will call me Dominic when I'm in trouble. So, but Dom or Dominic is kind of either one.
All right, we're going to stick with Dom then. Okay. Because I don't qualify for either of those other two scenarios.
For sure.
So we got a lot of parents in here wondering, why do I want to listen to Dom? What he's such a young kid. He's on here. I'm trying to get my kid in to perform better in high school, maybe on their travel team. I'm trying to get, as a coach, I'm trying to get my team to perform better. Why do I want to have a conversation with Dom?
Yeah, so I think from my time at Ohio Dominican when I was playing, I learned from a lot of great coaches. One of them, our head coach, was Bill Conley. So he worked with Jim Trussell, was on the national championship team over there. So I learned a lot of leadership things from him, a lot of leadership principles. And then also from the various times where I've been at with Kelly Cummings at Ohio Dominican, as well as a graduate assistant, Sean Lewis over at Kent State, Paul Haynes at Kent State, and then even Butch Jones at Arkansas State. I just learned a lot from those guys and was able to see that there was a gap in leadership, but also performance and how they're able to drive performance in their teams, and how I took a lot of those principles that maybe they were instilling in their players and have applied it to A1pha Pack. But then I also saw there was some leadership principles that I could provide that maybe they weren't providing, or they would provide in small doses. And I felt like I could bridge that gap. And then for me, as I've been growing in this space and learning more about mental performance, I teamed up with Ben Newman. He's my mentor. He's worked with Alabama for the past 5 years, won 2 national championships there. He also works with Coach Kleiman over at Kansas State. He's been with Coach Kleiman for, I think, 10 years now. They won a few national championships at North Dakota State. So all the stuff that those guys are learning, some of the highest performers, he works with a lot of NFL guys and various other professional athletes, but all the stuff he's teaching them and helping them perform at their highest, that's the same thing I teach. So I weave in my own stuff that I know that is true, but I also take what he has taught me and what he teaches them. And you talk about a guy in Terrion Arnold, a guy that just got drafted in the first round to the Detroit Lions. Ben taught him what he calls a prize fighter day. I call it an alpha standard day of making sure we live up to our standards. But those are the same things, same principles I teach. And I believe that they are applicable for not only grade school, high school, and college kids, but like professionals. And it's all the way down the line. And it's not only athletes, but if you as a parent are looking to perform better, it applies to your life as well. So the things that I'd be teaching them, you could learn as well. And hopefully it'd be able to help you perform better as a parent, as a business person, and so on.
Yeah, it's beautiful how you say that, Dom. When I wrote my book, Coaching the Home Team, it was based on not just raising my 3 daughters, but also all of the years of experience I had on the field. And this is why athletes translate so well into the workforce. They have that team mentality. They have that alpha mentality. They have that leadership skill because they've learned that through sports. And I'm such a passionate advocate that how you do anything is how you do everything, right? And
Amen.
that's why,
Amen.
yeah, that's why these skills and these plans, these practice plans, these mentalities translate so well into life,
Yeah, for
right?
sure. I would say that like the things I teach, again, I'm teaching some Division 3 or coaching with some Division 3 guys at football or other sports, and then even some Division 2 teams. And probably 99% of them aren't going pro. And that's just the fact of it. And that's okay. The things that I'm applying to their life, I apply in my own life. I'm not playing sports anymore. I mean, I golf, I slap the ball around a little bit, but like I apply them in my life, in my business, and in my home life. And so these are applicable beyond your sport. Now, if you can apply them in sport, especially at a young age, I think it's crucial to help you be able to apply them now so that when you get down the road and life is a little bit harder than just swinging a bat or shooting a hoop, you've already applied these principles in your life and it's a lot easier to utilize them. And I think that's what the greatest part about it is, that you're not only just being able to learn and be the best athlete that you could be, you're becoming the best husband, best wife, best father, best mother, whatever it is, by being able to apply these same principles. And I think that if you can start, not necessarily at a young age, you got to be mature enough to be able to understand how to apply them or why they're important. But I think that eventually you're able to take these and grow exponentially because of them. And I think sports a great way to do that. And coaches that can be able to apply these and almost have those taglines or those call outs to help their athletes be better. That's what these come from as well, is to give them that little soundbite that snaps them back into reality of, okay, I got to lock back in on it's 4th down or it's bottom of the 9th, whatever it is. Helping them lock back in mentally, just giving them a soundbite is huge for them.
Oh yeah, that's so amazing. One of the things that I've used for years, and the reason I'm able to get so many things done in a day is one of my mentors taught me very early on that if you chunk what you have to do into these little chunks, like downs, right? If we know we have to go 10 yards and we have 4 plays to do it, we don't have to get all 10 on the first play, right?
Exactly.
We know that we have, but most people out there, most coaches, I'll go out to a coach on the field, and I do baseball and softball, but I'm out there and I'm looking at their practice because they're like, okay, coach, I need you to come out, kind of help me figure out what's going wrong. Why are these players not developing? And I go out there and the coach is just doing things that were done, when I was playing, which I'm not even going to tell you was over 40 years ago, right? When I was a kid, and I'm like, there's no plan here. There's no steps. These kids they're like, okay, we got to do this so we can get here. No, they have no idea what this is.
Yeah.
They're just doing this. And when somebody's just doing this and they don't have that goal that's pulling them towards it or anything, then it's not nearly as effective, even if you do the same things.
Oh yeah. It's honestly, you have to be able to see what the destination is in your head. Visualization. I use visualization a lot, and I think that's crucial. But it's the idea of like progression over perfection, right? But in order to progress, you got to know where you're progressing to. So to understand, like, okay, today the focus for football, because again, being a football coach, it's a little bit easier for me to relate, is if I was coaching my linebackers, okay, we were not great in our footwork. So we're going to do a certain part of footwork in individual drills. Then we're going to do a certain part of footwork in our group drills. Then we're going to do footwork in the team drills, and we're going to do part, whole. But again, you have to know what the whole looks like before you can even do part, because you don't even know where they go together. I think it's very crucial for that. And then you talk about segmentation, and I love segmentation. And I like to utilize it in the idea of, I call it target. So like it's a controllable that we have, which is our intentional focus. And to be able to lock in and understand, I have a certain amount of time, so let me just bear down and understand with intentional focus what I need to get done. And understanding that the goal at the end of the day might be all the way, way away, and it might be years away. But if I keep putting intentional focus on every single detail, that's how I'm going to win with my discipline. And then I can continually do that and show up with long discipline in the same direction with intentional focus, I'm going to win. But it's understanding that it's going to take some time, but you got to know what the end goal is before you can even do part whole.
I absolutely love that. I remember, this takes me back. I was coaching this 14U team in Aurora, Colorado, and they had been. I was part of the Spartan organization, and they just called me and said, "Hey, we got these kids that didn't make the majors, and there's not another team, but there's enough of them that didn't make it to form a team. Will you just coach them through this season?" And I said, "Sure, I can do that." So I went out there, and the first thing I'm doing is I'm assessing, right? So I'm like, can you throw? Can you field? Can you, what is your baseball knowledge? And I look and I say, okay, we gotta go back to the basics. We need to learn how the fundamentals of fielding a ball, the fundamentals of setting our feet, the fundamentals of throwing the ball, our athletic stance. These things are non-existent. Were non-existent in this team. So the first month of practice, the parents are like, are we gonna like do some live batting and are we gonna do some things that are actually gonna make a difference? And I'm like, just trust what I'm doing and trust that the things that we're working on here are gonna make all the difference in the world when we start playing games. Okay.
Yeah.
You just I can't explain it to you right now. This was very early on in my coaching career, but trust me, when we get done, it'll be different, right? And the practices will progress as they get different. By the end of the season, the parents would get their lawn chairs and sit and watch the entire practice. How many times have you seen parents stay and watch a practice? They don't care. They drop you off. They go eat dinner, or do whatever they got to do. They're sitting there watching the practice because they're so fascinated by what has happened with their kids. They became better students, better athletes, better brothers to their sisters. I mean, there's some stories that I'm just like, and it's about you as a coach knowing, hey, here is where it's going, right? This is, I have visualized this. And me as a coach, whenever I walk onto the field, I like to say, okay, I see the athlete as it can be, right? I see the performance as they can be. I see the team as they can be. And I work from there.
Yeah. I like that. I mean, so there's a lot of things you touched on that I love.
Oh,
the
yeah.
first thing I'm gonna touch on is just when I was coaching in college, I would tell the recruits and even my players would be, if all you learn in 4 years is football, I have miserably failed you. And I think that goes true. I feel like we focus so much on the sport and the X's and O's and getting the drills down or making sure we can slam dunk a ball or throw a ball 50 yards, but we don't actually learn how to groom them as people. And if we're doing that as coaches, we're failing them. Like they could be Patrick Mahomes, but if we haven't taught them a life lesson or we haven't taught them how to be better people, we've failed them. And I feel like that's something that I really truly believe in is I'm developing people. I'm not developing athletes. Yeah, athletes is part of it, but like at the end of the day, they're going to be able to be better people because of it. And then the other thing that you touched on, oh, now I'm blanking on what you were talking about. Just the idea of developing with the fundamentals, right? You can't do a windmill dunk if you can't even do a layup, right? We got to understand the fundamentals. We can't hit a home run if we can't even hit a ground ball, right? We got to understand what those fundamentals are, because if we get those fundamentals down, and I think that's one thing that I apply with my performance coaching right now is the fact that we're going to work on the fundamentals. We're going to get the foundation so solid that once we get to the point of, oh, we can take it to the next level, that foundation is going to be there for the rest of our lives. And that's going to be the biggest part, is that if you build those foundational steps all the way through, you're going to be able to do whatever you want after that, right? You're going to be able to deke on a deep ball because you know how to field a deep ball out there in center field. But if you don't even know how to do that as a base fundamental, putting your two hands together, how are you going to deke on that and then throw the guy out? It's just impossible. So it's understanding that like these fundamentals are so crucial. And I think that's where you have to lay the foundation on anything, whether it's mental performance, baseball, basketball, whatever sport you're in, whether you're playing the piano, right? You don't learn how to play Mozart right off the bat. You learn like Mary Had a Little Lamb, right? So it's the same idea.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that you touched on that so beautifully, Dom. I love it because when I was coaching at the high school level for years, what happens is these boys, we're in there, we're taking these routine ground balls in the gym, right? It's winter, we're in the gym, it's in the morning, it's early. Nobody wants to be there, but they know this is what we got to do to be able to perform, right?
Yeah.
And I'm hitting these ground balls, and they're like, "Well, coach, hit it over here so I could dive, and hit it over here so I could dive." And I'm like, you know what? As soon as you feel 100 ground balls that I hit super hard at you in a row, we can do the diving drill. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you can't make the fundamental play, we're going to lose.
Yeah. It's like Nick Saban used to say all the time is we don't do it till we can't, or till we do it right. We do it until we can't get it wrong. Right. We do it so that we're so good that like we've caught a million balls that literally, if I had my eyes closed, I probably could field that ball. And that's what it comes down to, is understanding that if you can do all the basics, that's when the other stuff takes over, because you don't even have to worry about the basics anymore. The basics are second nature. They just come to you. And that's kind of the same thing with like mental performance and mindset, is that the more we lay the foundation with the basics, the more we just keep being repetitive and showing up on a daily basis, hitting all of our standards for the day, they become just a natural thing that you do. Like for me, I have personal things that I do for myself, professional things I do, and then I do an act of service. And because I do those every single day, yes, I still make sure I check them off and make sure I hit every single one, but they've just become part of my day now because they're a standard. There's nothing below them. I'm hitting this or I'm not living that day. I've lost the day, and I'm going to make sure I keep stacking those wins. Same thing goes for baseball. Same thing goes for any sport. If you can't do the basics right, how are we supposed to start progressing to the next evolution of that? And I think that's what's so crucial, is we need to understand, again, it's part whole. We can't skip a part. We can't move and just keep skipping to what we want to do. Because there's going to be a lot of times in our life we're going to have to go through things we don't want to do, be uncomfortable. But because we went through that comfortability, we're able to get to that next level because we grew in that time. And I'm on TikTok because I'm presenting to high schoolers and college kids, and I know that they're all over TikTok. So I pull some TikTok things for them. But I saw this TikTok, and it said, life is like a book. If you're going through a book, you can't just skip a chapter and think you're going to know what's going on. Same thing in life. We can't just skip a chapter, whether it's a bad chapter or a boring chapter. We have to keep reading that book regardless. And the same thing goes for if we're in a good time and we want it to last longer. Well, eventually we got to keep reading and keep growing and learning from that. So it's the same thing. We got to make sure we read every chapter of the book, even if it's the base fundamentals that are so boring, we don't feel like we need them, but they're going to be laying the foundation for the rest of our life.
That is so beautifully, so well said. One of my mentors early on told me, he said, you got to study the fundamentals. Always go back to the fundamentals. If you go back to the fundamentals, you'll fix what's wrong now. Go back to the fundamentals, work on the fundamentals, always work on the fundamentals. And I said, well, Kevin, how long do we have to work on the fundamentals? He's like, you'll know you don't need to work on the fundamentals anymore when all you want to do is work on the fundamentals.
Yeah.
When you realize it's that important, then you probably don't need to work on them anymore.
That's what, with my linebackers, I used to do that all the time. First drill that we're doing in individual is footwork. We're taking our first steps and getting our first steps down. And again, I had a lot of young guys when I was at Wheeling and I was coaching the linebackers. They were all sophomores and freshmen. So they're all thinking we're going to be doing these cool drills. We're going to be doing all this. I'm like, no, we're doing the footwork, because you take one wrong step and you're the wrong place. And eventually they learned to love the footwork because it got them to where they needed to be. But again, going back to the fundamentals, nobody wants to work on footwork. I would love to work on other things with them, but I know if we don't do the fundamentals right, there's no way we're going to do anything else right. So I love that. You got to be able to do the fundamentals until you love doing the fundamentals.
Yeah. and I'll tell you what, Dom, I've been coaching 24 plus years and I still love the fundamentals. Right?
I think they're the best part, to be honest.
Yeah.
The next steps are like the fun part, but then it's like, all right, get back to reality. Just like in life, you don't go on a vacation for the rest of your life, right? You got to go on vacation to have fun, and then it's back to reality, right? Back to the hard work and back to the attacking that work every single day. But you got to go to have the fun thing. So maybe you go to the next level for a little bit, and then you got to get back to the fundamentals, make sure that foundation's still solid.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you a quick story here, Dom. I was working recently with my daughter, plays on a comp softball team, and they were having some issues with the outfielders. They were coming in and they would let the ball fall right in front of them to be safe and field it instead of trying to catch it. And so the coach comes to me and he's like, JT, like, what would you do here? I don't understand why they're not getting it. And I said, well, there's a little bit of fear and there's a little bit of the wrong mentality. So why don't you let me work with them this practice, and I'll tell you exactly what to do. So I got the outfielders together and I said, look, you see all this green grass out here? Because in the softball field, it's dirt in the infield and it's grass on the outfield, right? I said, this is your territory. You got to be like the Air Force Academy, right? If the Air Force is if somebody's flying in a no-fly zone, what happens? You get 3 fighter jets and they come out there and they intercept you, right?
Yep.
They say, look, you can land peacefully or we're shooting you down. And so this is what I want you to consider. All this grass out here, this is the no-fly zone. At all costs, in order for you to protect your pitcher, who is the president, you need to shoot down and take down anything that comes into the no-fly zone. And for this entire practice, that's all we're working on. No matter where I hit this ball, you catch it, right? This is practice. There is nobody scoring. There is no pressure. There's no parents telling you what to do. There's no nothing. You catch the ball. That's your only goal. Intercept that ball. This is the no-fly zone. And it was absolutely incredible because they were a little hesitant at first. And then as we kept going at it. Before you knew it, they were diving. And these girls, like my boys, I can't get them to not dive. All they want to do is dive. The girls, it's like an act of Congress to get them to dive for a ball. Right.
I love that story because I feel like it goes back to the idea of like fear of failure, right? I feel like even myself, I've been there and I still go through sometimes where I'm like scared to fail or have fear to fail. But I'm like, at the end of the day, that's how we learn, right? Like, so go miss the ball. So that way you learn, okay, maybe I misjudged it or maybe I took a bad step. But if I just kind of stop and just like let it hit because it's safe, well, then I'm never going to learn, right? I'm never going to learn if I was too slow or took a bad step or misread it. But if I just go attack that and just attack it with everything I have and understand that even if I miss it, I gave everything I had and now I can go back, watch the tape, learn what I did wrong or understand, okay, maybe I took a misstep. And then the next time I can implement that again and then go attack it again and just keep doing that until I learn how to catch a ball the best way or learn that, okay, now I have to dive, right? The other ones, I'm a little bit closer so I can keep running under it. But this is the point where now I know it's all in and I got to dive. And that way you can kind of discern that. But if you don't fail in the first place, you'll never learn that. You'll just keep being safe and you'll just keep living kind of a safe life, kind of living under the radar. But if you go attack it and just find out, okay, I failed. All right, what's the new plan? Let's go attack that now. Right. And it's just understanding that we just come up with new plans, come up with new attacks, and we just keep attacking the work every single day.
Yeah. And I can feel that alpha pack coming out in you right now.
I'm getting fired up right now. I'm getting fired up. So,
well, I tell you what, if you guys have questions for Dom, he is in the community. Reach out to him, direct message him. Whatever you got to do, you can see he's obviously passionate about what he's doing. He's fired up and he's here to help and support you in any way he can. And thank you for your time today, Dom. It's been fantastic, even better than I had planned. And thanks for being on.
No, I really appreciate it, JT. Love being here. I'm like you said, I'm in the school app. So if you guys need anything, please feel free to reach out.
Perfect.